Before I begin to talk about the topic of coffee, I actually wanted to tell you that where I come from. I spent predominant years of my life in the farms. I'm a small and medium farmer. So my first stint in a city was post-graduation. So I was a village boy, went to the town, the school nearby, and my first job was with Free Hats and in 2002, so I never saw a city before that. I saw a city with the virtue of my parents coming and then doing shopping once in a while. So why I'm telling you about this is because the venture that I'm in right now is an extension of who I am and why I got into coffee. So it's more of a philosophy and more of a religion, more of a community, and that's what I'm going to speak to you about. So going back to 2007, before 2017, I spent about 13 years being a banker. I mean, various roles in banking. I mean, from all the way to retail banking to corporate banking, and finally L&D HR for almost about 8 years in the banking side. So this is, I'm holding the mic after almost about 8 years. I did about 21 days in a month doing training, so this was nostalgic for me. And pretty funny though, that being at the retail side and then the L&D and then jumping into becoming an entrepreneur in 2017, one of the things that intrigued me and wanting to get into entrepreneurship is because when I was training, I understood that as an entrepreneur, you got to lead by example, and that kind of always, when I was coaching and then telling people what to do, it kind of made me realize that, hey, there is something in me that I want to do. So I got an opportunity to work with the coffee company in 2017, and then realized I need to fix the space of coffee. So in 2017, we began, I started Humble Bean, and the whole point of creating Humble Bean was to bring in a whole ecosystem and change the space forever. So this was a very, very long expression, so people never believed in how could a large ecosystem work like this. So, it was quite funny. I'm going to deep dive into that aspect by the end of the session, but let me give you a little bit of insights which I think is very important, and we take them for granted. And I want people to know what are the three things that I'm going to talk about today. One is the bean itself. The second is the fuss about sustainability that we keep tom-tomming in today's world. I need sustainably sourced, organic, single estate coffee. So what's the fuss all about? And the third thing is about the different waves that the world has seen and what India is witnessing today. So these are the three topics that I'm going to dwell upon. People who did not know, the coffee bean exactly looks like this. You know, the cherry, you can literally pluck them and then chew them, and then it's extremely sweet. And then the nature has made it that way, so the animals could actually chew the sweet and gain energy. And when they spit, the generations of coffee continues to grow. So the nature has made it that way. And one of the reasons that we also created the name Humble Bean was because the bean takes 9 months to mature, like like the child is nurtured in a womb. And I was just thinking, it changes the highest number of hands. Wars have been fought. It's a romantic subject. It's existed for almost about 250, 300 years. You can only stay humble and nothing else if you're in the business of coffee. So that's what inspired us to have the name Humble Bean. And yeah. So this is how the bean looks like for people who did not know. So this is the deconstruction of the bean. So this mucilage that you see here is extremely sweet, and you'll be surprised to know how sweet and how berry-like it is. And once this whole deconstruction is made, this is exactly the raw bean that is being traded across the world. So if you're talking about people buying beans, being exported or whatever, this is the form that the coffee gets exported, and this is how a typical roaster buys the coffee. I want to draw your attention to why does a Starbucks coffee, for example, is dark roasted in that fashion all the time. So if you want to eliminate all the right flavors of coffee and keep something that is constant. All of you say that I had the Starbucks coffee in London, I had the Starbucks coffee in Bangalore. It's the same everywhere. The only reason it's same everywhere is because I eliminate all the fruitful flavors to bring constants, which is the chocolate and the dark roasted. So you always find the beans dark roasted. You may ask me why. If the beans quality is not good, you cannot roast them in a light roast or a medium roast because the coffee goes bad. So in order to eliminate the right flavors, I keep the dark roasts constantly. And if anybody says I am a coffee connoisseur and drinking cappuccino, this is a misconception. It's the most concocted beverage on planet Earth. Because once you add milk, it's gone. And that's the reason the dark roasters, your frappuccino, cappuccino, any chinos that comes out or whatever, is a hit or a miss. Anything that goes up to the dark roast, your bean is spoiled. So a lot of studies, I think thousands and thousands of studies have proven that drinking light roast and medium roast, best had as black coffees, has immense amount of health benefits. And I will not deal into those aspects right now, but at the end of the session, if you want me to add me to your group or whatever, I can send you a lot of health benefits from Alzheimer's to dementia to many other things and liver health and stuff like that. It's not the dark roasted beans, please remember this. This is how a typical world market looks like. There are two different kinds of coffee. One is an Arabica and one is a Robusta. So the ones that you find in India are predominantly 70% of India's coffees are exported. And when we talk about, so for example, Italy, which has Belgium, Italy, and Germany, which has the highest drinking coffee or whatever, 70% of the coffees goes from India. So the Robusta is a very, very dark, very, very heavy-bodied coffee, cannot be had as black coffee. So usually these are used for cappuccinos to have a nice body. So, but if you want to enjoy your coffees black, it's the Arabicas, and there is the dwindling numbers that is coming because of deforestation and then climate changes and so on and so forth. So this is how it looks like right now. So the major coffee growing regions like Uganda and India, grows most of Robustas, and these are the two large varieties of coffees. Okay, I want to bring the idea about sustainability and how India is uniquely positioned. I think we have to take immense pride in, I take immense pride in actually saying this. We have belittled ourselves is because the custodians of coffee was always held by the coffee board, and we represented ourselves in the international coffee markets as a second fiddle to the rest of the world. India is the only place in the whole world where the biodiversity is intact. So if you typically look at an aerial view of a coffee plantation, you do not see coffee plantation. You find avocados, you find berries, you find multiple other seeds. So the canopy so this is how it typically looks like, an Indian plantation. So what's the idea about sustainability? We all talk about sustainability, right? So if you look at what is the big deal about organic, not wanting to have what you call chemical fertilizers and so on and so forth, what actually happens is you have the mining of the minerals happening from the ground when you have all of these trees. And these trees, when they decay with the fruits and the leaves falling in, the carbon sequestration is natural and the topsoil remains intact. And that's the reason India has the least chemical footprint in the whole world when it comes to coffee growing. Why? Rest of the places, if you see, there is no canopy of trees. It grows like a tea plantation. So the need to infuse fertilizers onto the topsoil is a lot. And that's the reason the Europeans are always talking about bird-friendly, then organic cultivation, is because they need to talk about it. In India, we don't need to talk about it. If you talk about organic cultivation, as a farmer, I can tell you, we will see more farmer deaths. It's not sustainable. It's just a fad for the city. So you can still use fertilizers, not chemicals, because there is a natural sequestration because of the canopy of trees. This is something that you should be proud about and know about India's unique positioning, but this is not known. We are the 5th to the 6th largest producers of coffee in the world, and Thankfully, entrepreneurs like me are bringing in this kind of an awareness with the new age coffee drinking. You have the blue turquoise of the world, you have the third waves, and we're seeing a whole lot of these coffee chains coming in India and then educating. So I'm not a big fan of the single estates and then all of that. Again, it doesn't give you a level playing field because the single estates are the virtue of somebody who has made money, who can highlight their farms. India has the largest small and medium farms in the whole world. I mean, almost 85 to 90% are small farmers. So Sadhguru's mission about saving the soil have all been pointing towards, because of these three places, Hassan, Chikmagalur and Cook, the whole community of coffee growers are sustaining because of coffee as a commercial crop, right? But we are the most disoriented is because we grow the coffee like tobacco and then not associated with the product. So there's a huge amount of quality orientation that is required. So when you are looking for coffees or whatever, you should look for these kind of aspects. What is the kind of social change are brands trying to build? It's not the single estate, it's actually the different kind of processing method, what am I doing for the communities and so on and so forth. So Mizoram grows, Araku grows. So Araku is also becoming slightly more popular is because certain industrialists have spent on the brand name. And that's the reason the place is very famous, but Cook still contributes close to 60-65% of coffee production, apart from all the other coffee growing regions in the world. So this is a little bit about sustainability. It is very, very nice subject to talk about, but when you get to the ground realities of whatever the elephant menace, the wildlife confrontation, all of that we face on a day-to-day basis is definitely something that is, people are not abreast with it. So don't chase behind the organic story. It's not sustainable. You have to talk about sustainability, which is sustainable actually. So the idea about sustainability has to be understood from a different mindset, and coffee is just not a beverage that we mindlessly drink. It is to be associated with all these aspects. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is the farmer in me. Some kind of a representation. I mean, this is the voice that a lot of them need to speak. God gave me this gift of the gab, so I've been able to communicate this, and I represent the community very strongly. So I'm happy to say that we've always lived as communities, but not represented ourselves very well. So I'm privileged and then thankful to be leading this and as thought leaders in the industry. And you will see us doing more of work vehemently on the space. And yeah, I can say this confidently. You'll see that. Yeah. So this is how a typical, you're all, thankfully the subject is so very relevant because coffee picking season is starting in December and Jan. So please visit these places. You can promote ecotourism. Look at the homestays that you're seeing. The coffee harvesting will start in December and Jan. Go and then figure out for yourselves. The coffee plantation looks like this. It's beautiful. Get to know, pick up the coffee. There are ample number of homestays which are offering and extending their services to come and then look at the coffee plantation. So this is the right time. November, I'm already preempting and then telling you all. I do not have a space. Della can probably think about it someday. But yeah, I mean, please do make sure that you visit these 3 districts during this time, December and Jan. Yeah, so this is how a typical harvest looks like in a day. I want to draw your attention to the different kinds of wave that we have witnessed around the world. The 1960s and the 70s saw the Marilyn Monroes and the jazz era, and then different kinds of brand on the shelves, and then so on and so forth. So that was what was called as the first wave of coffee. So today coffee, like wine, it has been trailing wine. The kind of finish, the kind of knowledge, the kind of stuff that's happening, it's been trailing wine. So there are different waves of coffee. The first wave of coffee was all about coffees being available in a powdered form, the introduction of sealed packs, tins, and then all of this came. So for all of you who are drinking instant coffee, let me tell you this. Instant coffee is made from bits and blacks. I just need to put better aroma and make it sound like caramel and then all of that. So people readily mix those and then drink black coffee and then hit the gym. please remember, if you look at the bidding process in Coffee Board, ITC, and the rest of the big multinationals will be sitting there, and there'll be only one or two bidders for the bits and blacks, because you don't need good coffees to do instant coffee. You just have to burn them to a certain level, and there is the agglomerated process, and I'm not going to get into that. So we saw the witnessing of innovation happen in coffee, instant coffee, then coffees being available in a powdered. So it was in this form the first wave, the 1970s jazz. If you look at all the advertisement in the 1970s, you would have found some form or the other the coffee being present. So that is the first wave. The second wave was the birth of, obviously, for me to have a good cup of coffee, I had to go to a cafe so that the espresso machine dishes out the kind of coffee that I wanted. So it moved from homes to going into neighborhoods and then drinking coffee. So Starbucks revolutionized that. I mean, the man saw this nice steely machine sitting out of an Italian setup, and then came and brought that kind of a vibe into the neighborhood cafe through the birth of Starbucks. So you find all this Cafe Coffee Day, Gloria Jean's, Pete's Coffee, are all representing the second wave of coffee. And so I hope you understood what's the second wave of coffee, right? I mean, you had to come to a particular cafe to get a machine poured out of an espresso, and therefore the cappuccinos was available. We still did not see much of black coffees those days, okay? And so the birth of, coming to the Indian relevance, I'm sure that you would have seen all these brands, but one of the brands that is noteworthy to see that is something revolutionized the third wave coffee culture was Blue Bottle in the US, which actually brought in small, medium roast and light roast, and then gave coffee in an extremely palatable fashion. So what was third wave coffee meant? It believed in transparency. So Colombia, Mexico, which was drug infected or whatever, there had to be a social outreach program done. So the brands invested in Rwanda, Kenya, and then all of that water rehabilitation program and so on and so forth, and bought coffees from cooperative sessions. So a mindful customer walked in and understood, where is this coffee coming from? How transparent is it? And blah, 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 blah. So what India did, we directly went and emulated the US model, came and started, and then started highlighting coffee. So if you look at some of the third wave coffee brands, they talk about certain estates, because this is directly a cut-paste copy of what we have seen in the US. US did that is because of the neighbors. So third wave is all about transparency, bringing in the best of the coffee seed. I mean, if I have to do a light roast and a medium roast, the coffee has to be neat. There are specialty defined protocols. So this is the birth of third coffee. India, fortunately, has been witnessing all of a sudden from the last 3 years a surge in the third wave coffee culture. With you've seen the rounds of mop-up of funds that is going into blue tokai and third wave. I mean, they're taking everybody, third wave is in competition with Starbucks wants to do about 150, 200 stores in the next couple of months, and they're already on the job. And you're also seeing multiple others coming in different cities. So this is all about third wave. As we speak, we've already entered the fourth wave of coffee. And what is the fourth wave of coffee? Fourth wave of coffee is to define a war cry. When I say define a philosophy, I mean, what is that I can change in what we do? So that is, so slowly some of the Australian brands, Australia happens to be one of the gastronomical delights in the world. So people are very conscious. Starbucks wrote off $750 million of their books because it did not survive there, because they supported the local communities. Australians are very, very mindful about the local communities, where it comes from, sustainability, So it was the philosophy which actually brought in brands together. And that's why the fourth wave of coffee is only a conversation starting point. Now coming to fourth wave of coffee in India, it's going to be humble bean. It's already humble bean, okay? Now, I want to tell you the most important bit. which I did not tell you. So these are the, see, if you let me talk about coffee, I can go on and on and on. I'm thankfully, seeing the timeline. So I want to tell you what have we achieved from 2017. So when I went to investors, they did not believe in this story. I mean, you're showing the whole spectrum of how I can bring in a level playing field with the coffee community. How can I do this? How, blah, blah, all of that. So we bootstrapped until 2021. We bootstrapped, and today we are putting up an expression, and as we speak, 16th, we are launching in Bangalore, in Indranagar, the first of its kind, largest manual brew in India, which will showcase all small and medium farmers' coffees being brewed in one of the finest equipments. So some of the equipments are for the first time installed in India. What makes the cafe special is that for the last 5 years of our work is being dovetailed into this concept store. So we have a proper academy that we have been running. We have educated more than 150 farmers. We have sampled for the last 5 years, given free assessment of samples to farmers. We have not charged them even one bit. So you may ask me, how can an entrepreneur make money? So I believe in the idea of social value investing. Tomorrow's world is built around these lines. So what I meant by social value investing is I can always say, hey there, the government body is bad, hey there, this is bad, but can I create a ecosystem which will sustain each other? So that is when this idea stuck to me, and I said the academy can make money through imparting training to entrepreneurs and multiple others, and can give education to farmers. So we have onboarded many farmers who have never got their coffees into the mainstream. So for the first time, a farmer has tasted his coffee. The funny thing about India is a farmer has never tasted his own coffee. So he just gives the beans to one of the local roasters there, and he thinks it's his coffee, but believe me, it's not. It's some concocted beverage that roaster has been giving from a long time. So Humble Bean, as we speak today, has a full-fledged coffee academy where it has trained entrepreneurs, where it has onboarded many farmers, has given free assessment samples to farmers and have graduated and got them to that level. We export coffee. We use transparency. We have bought transparently traded, digitally traceable coffee from Araku recently, and Blue Tokai was the only one which did that. So Araku tribal community, where Walmart's one initiative is there where all the tribal community, they're literally geotagged, and you can actually trace even a single bean, where it comes from, how it comes from, where it has gone, and all of that. So last year we invested in one lot which is traceably and transparently traded. So this is all the fourth wave of coffee that we're talking about. So this is a little bit of trivia that I could give you about coffee. Just walking into a cafe can actually give you a lot of knowledge around coffee and then what it means. To me, it's been philosophy. To me, it's been a community. To me, it's been an extension of what I think and what I want to bring to the table. So when Shama asked me to join DLC, that is what I thought. What can I give to the set of people who are looking to become entrepreneurs and learning from that? So I was more keen on what can I give back to the community. So with this parable of what I narrated about Humble Beans experience, this is what I meant. I mean, if there is a strong conviction in trying to do something that you'll really love, I think coaching, all of that is going to fall through. So it's very important for, my journey has been that way. I mean, I stuck to it. Last 7 years I gave my time. Today we are seeing good times, and coinciding with my first conversation in DLC, I think what makes DLC is our contribution, not only Jimmy's contribution and what he keeps striving towards. It's each one of us contribution, what we can contribute to the community, which can make it bigger. And that's what I'm here for, and I'll continue to do that. So coffee, philosophy, conversation, community, design thinking. So I've covered almost everything that I can do, and I think I did a good job by trying to club everything in one.